Okay, quick video for myself, Harvey Goldman. No cuts, no edits, no filters, and no hair. So today's video, a very quick one about will you have a job in 5 years' time, and what might that even look like? Is anybody safe? The truth is that the jury's out. So spoiler alert, nobody knows. That's the spoiler. I can tell you now that the job landscape, particularly white collar, which is the one that I've got experience in, it's changed beyond measure in the last 18 years to 2 months. There are advances being made and corners being cut with AI that, to be honest, nobody thought possible at this point 18 months ago. So it's rise and rise and rise, and the pace at which that has picked up has been truly exponential. It's almost like compound interest, but with AI. I know that 2 years ago, people thought that AGI was about 10 years away. And now 18 months to 2 years later, people think it's probably 2 years away, if it's not here already and just being kept quiet. So there is a very real threat. AI is changing the landscapes of what it means to be employed, certainly within white collar. Now, another thing that might affect whether you've got a job in 5 years, obviously it depends on your industry, but things like retail and customer service industries, we're all aware that the retail industry, certainly the high street side of the retail industry, is on its knees. Now, there are various factors for this. AI is not to blame for this one. This is down to greedy councils, it's down to greedy landlords, and also a massive paradigm shift in the way that people shop. The way that I shopped ever since 2020, the advent of the lockdowns and everything else, we all got very comfortable shopping online. Too comfortable. We saw a resurgence in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and digital money. People were spending using PayPal and credit cards rather than cash because there was no opportunity to do so. And I feel that we've probably fallen out of love with cash a little bit in the UK. Well, in fact, not a little bit, probably a lot. I myself do still try and do cash transactions, but in all fairness, it can be a losing battle. I've actually been into shops in my local area and I've tried to pay with cash and they've said card only. So go figure. I mean, we're all told use it or lose it. And in some shops, we've already lost it. I don't know what can be done about that. Obviously, it does signal the death of the high street. Is it by design? Is it all part of some grander scheme, some Orwellian 15-minute city nightmare? Who knows? I don't know. But I know that the high street either needs to innovate or to reinvent itself, or it will absolutely die altogether. Will there be a high street in 5 years' time? Maybe in major cities. I think towns, maybe not. Maybe not. I did a drive through Torquay the other day. I also did a drive through Chard and Ilminster. Those videos have not gone up yet, but I did drive through them as well. And there's a stark difference between the two. In some places, it's really affecting the local economy badly. In others, it doesn't seem to have had an impact. So I guess the jury's out. Another thing that might affect whether you've got a job in 5 years is the type of job that you do. Now, we're all aware that obviously when you go onto things like Reed or Indeed or Monster Jobs and you're looking for work, the opportunities seem abundant. However, it has been well documented, and I've found this out through my own personal research, as well as obviously reading articles on Google and seeing people comment. Many of the listings that are on those job sites, they're fake. They're for jobs that once existed but no longer do. The adverts get renewed, regurgitated, and it's a way basically just to collect your data. So when you submit your CV, obviously there's a name, there's an email, there's a phone number, there's a forwarding address, there's everything else on there that you would expect on a CV. The companies basically just farm this data. Now, what they do with it after that, we can only imagine. I'm sure it's not being used for any good. That's the long and short of it. But the job market on the job market sites, it seems abundant. However, it's definitely not. 100% it's not. There have been stories, again, they're only stories. I can't quantify whether these are true or false, but I've read articles about people that have gone for jobs and people at the other end that are actually doing the recruiting. They've documented what actually happens when an email gets sent in, or if somebody receives a physical CV in the post, like that's even a thing anymore, what actually happens to them. And very often they just get ignored, or they go into a data collection pot, the details get added to an Excel spreadsheet and put into a CRM for marketing. So it might look like there are loads of jobs out there. There really aren't. And the jobs that you go for, 100%, there are many, many, many people going for those jobs. Sometimes hundreds, all going for the same job. So, how do you stand a chance in that type of market? The answer is you find another market. So that's what people have done. They've gone into a gig economy. And I'm actually doing this myself at the moment. Obviously, being a musician, literally doing gigs. That's a way to add extra revenue where, where I perhaps haven't got the capacity to earn any other way. For others, if they're not very good at a guitar or don't play an instrument, they've got Uber Eats. They can ride a bike, they can drive a car, they've got Uber taxis, etc. So these different gig economies, these kind of easy hire, easy fire, long hour, bad pay employment systems have popped up. And to be fair play for people for doing them. At least they're in work, although the work is crap. Let's just call it what it is. I don't know anybody that does a gig economy job that's happy with the job. They do it because they've no other option. Is that all that's going to be there in 5 years' time? Maybe. Another big thing that's obviously affecting the job prospects over the next 5 years is work from home versus particularly office work. I mean, it's a bit hard to work from home if you're a care assistant or a builder, but certainly for office-based businesses, work from home became a thing during the lockdowns. Most of us were furloughed for about 3 months, some of us for 6 months or even 9 months, depending on where we were in the UK. Work from home became a thing, and it's never really gone. I think people got so used to it, myself included. We got so used to work from home that now it's almost expected as part of a job. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I know from myself, I'd rather do all my work from home. I really would. I hate my daily commutes. I hate being stuck in traffic. I hate having to drive, to industrial estates in the middle of nowhere and back again. And I hate chucking miles on my car that I could do without. But I signed the contract. I said yes. I agreed to the paycheck, so that's on me. But with the advent of work from home, more and more employers seem to be offering it as a bit of a carrot and stick situation when it comes to getting a job. So they'll offer you the opportunity to work from home. Very often it's behind a probationary wall, so you don't get the capacity to do it until you've been with the company for 3 months or 6 months or whatever it might be. Or you've got daily reporting, or your activities are monitored like some kind of, like some kind of Orwellian nightmare, where every keystroke is monitored, every screen is viewed, and all the rest of it. I mean, the argument is that work from home is probably a good thing because it keeps people off the road. It frees up congestion. It saves us money on fuel, on parking, particularly in the cities like London where parking is ridiculous. But does it help? Do people get more done at home? I don't know. I don't know that I do. I know that I'm more motivated to work when I'm at home. I feel happier working from home. But whether that motivation actually translates into more work being done, I don't honestly know. You'd have to ask my employer. So work from home versus office, that's obviously a big one. Now, obviously you've got side hustles versus traditional careers. And that's another thing that might impact whether your job exists or whether you're even in work in 5 years' time. Myself, I've always had a traditional career or a traditional job. I've always just gone and done an interview and I've got a job. I've done a couple of jobs that have been blue collar, worked in factories for like little stints here and there with employment agencies. I've kind of used blue collar as a stopgap between office jobs, if that makes sense, because the jobs are generally easier to get. And that's no disrespect to anybody that's in blue collar. They work just as hard. The work is just as important, massively so. But blue collar, I think the retention for staff, the turnover for people coming and going from those jobs is probably a lot higher than white collar. And I think that's because the work is probably a lot harder. It might not be as mentally taxing. Let's just say that you're working in a factory and you're putting lids on yogurt pots or something like that for 10 hours a day. Yeah, it's not mentally taxing work, but it's still mentally draining. And those two kind of lead to the same outcome. You know, you do a day at work, you feel tired at the end of that day. So yeah, blue collar and white collar. Yeah, it's one of those. So I've always done one to get to the other. Recently, obviously, I've taken on side hustles. I can see a real benefit in not doing a traditional job. I would much rather have 2 or 3 different side hustles, work for myself, be in charge of my own destiny, my own hours, my own work ethic, and all the rest of it, and not have to deal with anybody else's BS. That's the point that I want to get to, is eventually just pure side hustles that turn into a meaningful income. And hopefully those side hustles are online or mostly online, and they can be moved with me anywhere I choose to relocate. That's the dream. That I can see becoming more of a thing in the next 5 years. I can see that becoming more relevant, more people getting into online shops. For example, you've got Squarespace and Shopify. You can set a shop up in about 15 minutes and just host a load of dropship products on there. I mean, it's not a great way to make money. Anybody that says that dropshipping is fantastic is probably one of the 0.1% that's had a good and profitable experience doing it. I've tried it many times. It's not all it's cracked up to be. It's really not. It's hard slog. But you can do an online shop in a few minutes. Things like photo editing you can do remotely. That's a good side hustle. Video editing for people. Making YouTube thumbnails. I know people that actually make a living out of that, charging between £20 and £50 for a thumbnail for top end creators. So there certainly is a load of different variation out there. There are things out there that exist now that didn't exist 5 years ago. And I suspect that will be the case in 5 years' time. Absolutely. There are going to be kids that are leaving school now, or probably still in school, that are messing around with Midjourney and Canva and Render Forest and other such stuff. And they're going to be in a position where, because they've grown up with it, because they've learnt on their own time, just for fun, they'll be able to turn that into careers eventually. They'll be able to turn that into a side hustle. So that type of thing, I can see that being massive. And I can see a lot of people falling into side hustles when they fall out of the traditional job types. A big battle, obviously, is staying relevant. We all know, I've been into this before, so I won't go into it too deeply. But leveling yourself up to try and get a promotion within your current job or a pay rise within your current job. Anything you can do to stay relevant, stay required, so that you don't get laid off, or make yourself a more, I guess, a more steadfast employment proposition to your current employer. So if they're thinking of doing layoffs, they're going to overlook you because you've got X, Y, Z as a skill set, and you've brought that to the party, whereas other people in your company may not have done. In regards to what industries are safe, honestly, I think the only industries that are safe at all in the next 5 years are going to be healthcare, and that's whether the NHS lives or dies. Healthcare's not going anywhere. And trades. Trades will be almost totally unaffected by AI. AI can help them with their bookkeeping, but it can't help them build a house. And those are just simple facts, or it can't do it yet. So until we get the rise of the robots, trades and healthcare are probably the two soundest industries to be in. White collar is in very, very grave danger in the next 5 years. And that is mostly due to AGI. But what should we do about this? Now, this is the takeaway. All of that I've mentioned, it sounds really bad. It sounds like we're headed for job uncertainty and chaos in the next 5 years. And to be fair, we probably are. What can we do? All I can do in my position and my age is to basically secure lots of different income streams. And when I went to visit a financial advisor about a week ago to get some advice on pension investments, he likened it to having jumped out of an aeroplane and only having a tiny little parachute. And he explained that all of the different income streams that I'm planning to create and that I've tried to get going are additional little parachutes. And there isn't any one big one that's going to save me. There isn't any one big one that's going to save anybody unless you've got generational wealth. But you can have enough little parachutes so that if one of them falls away, one of them as a whole, the others will support it. And that's probably the biggest the biggest takeaway and the best advice that I've received that I can probably give anybody, including my children. Get parachutes. And those parachutes are going to be in the form of side hustles, in the form of savings that can support you should the worst happen, should your job suddenly fall away from you. You are going to need something to fall back on. I think it's been documented. I'm sure you can go on Google and find out the exact figure, but I've been told it was an arbitrary number. I've been told that the average American has got less than $1,000 in savings and couldn't support themselves for an entire month should they lose their job. And that's worrying. And I can't imagine that the figure is going to be very dissimilar for Brits. I can't imagine that it's much different at this end of the pond. It's scary. It's scary. I know that with my savings, I can weather a storm for a good few months. The dream, I guess, or the ideal is to get savings that can weather a storm for 12 months. And then anything after that, you just put into investments. That's where I want to be. So what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on where the job market is going, or where the job market is versus where it's going to be in 5 years' time? Really interested to know. Let me know in the comments. Also, really keen to find out if things like AI and such are affecting your job right now. Has it had an impact on you? Even though it's just, we're basically in the advent of AI. It's still the first 2 years. And already I see it affecting my job and what's possible and what's been taken away from me in my own job. And how I'm basically fighting against it, learning to embrace it where I can, to cling on to that, So, yeah, anyway, YouTube's going to put another video there. Have a look. Maybe do, maybe don't. Like, follow, subscribe, ring the bell, all that jazz. And there'll be another video tomorrow. Goldman, peace out.